Now with Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, who's the Secretary General of the Palestinian National Initiative. He joins us now from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Really good to have you back with us, Doctor. This famine declaration doesn't come as a surprise to many of us who've been monitoring the situation in Gaza over many months. Do you expect that this declaration will change anything about the dire humanitarian situation on the ground there?
It should. And let me remind you, we've been talking about famine and starvation of the people since August last year. And it has been a consistent Israeli policy to weaponize starvation against the civilian population of Gaza. Now we have reports that they are planning to not only continue the weaponization of starvation and continue this famine, but also that they are planning to cut off any water supplies to Gaza. In reality, this whole thing has shown very clearly that what we are dealing with is a fascist government, a behavior that is very similar to the Nazi behavior during the Second World War. And this has to stop, and it can only be stopped if countries start immediately imposing sanctions on Israel. The Western governments, in particular, have the responsibility of doing that. Without the United States' support to Israel, Netanyahu would not have dared to go that far in committing all these war crimes, including collective punishment and starvation of people, including genocide, and including the ethnic cleansing that he's conducting in Gaza. And he would not have gone that far if Western governments have not abstained from holding Israel responsible in front of the international law. And if it wasn't for the fact that Israel has been given the immunity regarding the violations of international law and international humanitarian law. Today, I am telling you that frankly, after this very clear report by all the UN agencies, after this scientific proof of the presence of famine, any country in the world that does not impose immediately sanctions on Israel will be held responsible for being complicit with the acts of war crimes in Gaza.
Doctor, as our previous correspondent was explaining, the reaction from Israel has been one of denial. They've long held the belief that there is no starvation, and in response to this latest report, they've also denied that there's a famine. In fact, they're doubling down on this controversial operation to invade and seize Gaza City. What do you think will happen with that operation, and what will happen to the Palestinians who are already there?
I think we could see the worst ever massacre in modern history taking place in Gaza. We could see devastation of the people. We could see hundreds of thousands of people die of bombardment or die of starvation because if Israel proceeds with this military operation. And we already are witnessing attacks, continuous attacks on Palestinian communities in the West Bank. What you see here is an act of annihilation of a whole people, of the Palestinian people. And if they are allowed to continue, they will not only commit this terrible massacre in the city of Gaza, but they will also enforce ethnic cleansing of the whole population of Gaza. This is a very terrible scenario, and it has to be stopped. And it can only be stopped if different countries of the world immediately interfere and exercise true pressure on Israel, not just statements or political condemnations that mean nothing to Netanyahu, who should be described as Goebbels. He's the biggest liar in the world, and he has lied systematically and continuously. We've just heard another report by an Israeli TV channel, Channel 13, saying that Netanyahu, Smotrich, and Ben Gvir, all of them have blocked 5 times the possibility of reaching a ceasefire agreement. They want annihilation of the Palestinian people, and they should be stopped. This crime that is happening now in Gaza did not happen ever in human history since World War II.
As you mentioned, Doctor, a number of Western governments have simply turned a blind eye to what's happening in Gaza. We are seeing the tide changing somewhat amongst some Western countries, some who have pledged to declare a Palestinian state, others who have issued statements, as you say, condemning Israel. But I guess you could say the most significant Western ally of Israel's that's largely abstained is the United States. And that is the only power that Israel will likely respond to. What do you think Trump's thinking is on the current situation in Gaza right now?
Up till now, President Trump and his administration is supporting Israeli actions and supporting this weaponization of starvation and supporting the terrorist attacks on Palestinians in the West Bank and practically supporting the annexation of the West Bank and the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. If that's not the case, they should declare it. We should hear something. But nothing is said from the side of the American administration. On the contrary, we hear the American ambassador, Mr. Huckabee, encouraging Israelis to proceed with the crimes they are doing. But Israel can be affected not only by the United States, but also by Western other countries if they declare tomorrow a total military embargo on Israel, and if they declare that they will initiate economic sanctions on Israel. Look, in 2 months, the Western countries imposed 11,000 sanctions on Russia. They did not impose a single sanction on Israel yet. Although Israel has been occupying West Bank and Gaza for 57 years, although Israel displaced 70% of the Palestinian population in 1948, and most importantly, although Israel is now committing bluntly 3 major war crimes, the war crime of genocide, collective punishment, including starvation, and now ethnic cleansing, there has to be a stronger reaction. We trust the people. The people have moved. And that's why you start to see some reactions from some governments, but it's not enough. And what we need is much more than that. But the people of Europe have changed. Even the people in the United States have changed. Why? Because they realized that Israel is not the victim in this conflict. Israel is the aggressor. And they realized that Israel is not a democracy as it claims, because a democracy cannot commit apartheid and cannot kill 20,000 innocent children. And also they realized that Israel is not really representing what it claims to do, which is when they claim that they represent Western values or any values in general. I think the people of these countries are pressuring their governments, but their governments have been slow and have not done what they should have done up till now.
Okay, Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, we will have to leave it there, but really good to get your analysis as always. Thank you.